Hey everyone, this is Rob with Rob B's Reef, and today we're going to talk about free RODI water. So what am I talking about when I say free RODI water? I mean, I was frustrated by the fact that I was on well water. The tap water coming out of my faucet was about 250 to 270 TDS. And I went through the traditional means of creating an RODI system, which is, a pre-filter, carbon filters, and then I started out with mixed bed. But I was chewing through probably a canister of mixed bed resin every 60 gallons or less, and that was frustrating. I knew a lot of it had to do with high CO2 in the water, but I didn't have the space, nor did I want to develop the space or a system to degas it. So I went to a split bed. I separated my anion and my cation, and over time I noticed that while I was getting more life out of the anion because it was an entire canister of anion, it was still about the same rate as far as chewing through it went. And I noticed that my cation didn't deplete at all, ever, in a year and a half that I was doing that. So I decided to challenge my traditional thinking, and I decided, well, what if I just use no anion or cation and just do carbon and filters? So I tried that, and I sent it off to, I think I used ATI for an ICP test, and it came back and I seen that there were some undesirable things in there, and that my TDS out the end was running about 35 to 40. So I put the cation back on because it wasn't depleting barely at all anyways. And by barely at all, I mean it might have moved an inch or two in a year and a half at best. And I noticed I had much better results. Fortunately, I was already sending out ICP tests for other reasons, and ATI gives me a free one on my RODI, so it allowed me a little latitude to experiment there without too much additional costs. And then I added in 1 or 2 more carbon blocks, and all of a sudden I realized, hey, my TDS is down to 14 or 15. And that my ICP results were showing maybe I had a little bit of silicone and a few other things in there, but certainly nothing that I viewed as detrimental to my reef tank. And so I started going along with that. 12 months later, here I am. You can see that the tank clearly isn't dying. It's healthy and growing. In the last 12 months, I've seen unparalleled growth. It's got nothing to do whatsoever with the fact that I'm doing RODI the way I'm doing. That's just got to do with tank stability and the fact that I'm not adding anything poisonous in there. The proof is that I'm not throwing elements or things into my tank that would cause death or undue harm to the inhabitants. I guess in the last 12 months, I have spent 0 pennies or dollars on RODI water. I haven't replaced a single carbon filter. I haven't replaced a single pleated filter. And my cation hasn't moved but maybe a ½ inch tops in the last 12 months. And the results have been fantastic. I'm super happy with the way things have turned out. And I will continue doing ICP analysis every 4 months or so like I typically do. Since I'm running slurry, I'm still proving to myself that that's not doing any harm. That's been 16 months on the slurry as well. And now with the addition of, we'll call it no consumable DI resins or necessary frequent replacements of carbon blocks or filters of any type, it's really allowed me to reduce my ongoing monthly costs, which is important to me. We spend enough money getting into this hobby as it is, and initial equipment costs can be pretty high. So one way to shave off that pain, in my opinion, is ongoing month-to-month maintenance costs. Pretty much got it down to a yearly purchase of trace elements and some kalkwasser for carbonate alkalinity replacement and calcium, and now my RODI is free. So overall, I'm very happy with the results. I'll get some close-ups on the tank so anybody who's interested can see what's been going on and how things are looking currently. The last year of growth has been phenomenal. I've had hammers that have went from 4 heads to 14, and torches that have gone from 3 to 12, and it's just fantastic the way things have gone. Ghanies are happy as well, and I've got a couple baseball-sized skeletons that have grown out from little frag plugs over the last year. So things are definitely going well. So here we are at my RODI station as it stands today and has been configured as such for the last 12 months. A standard BRS 5-stage when I first bought it a couple of years ago, and I since added two expansion canisters to it to configure what I'm doing there. So a little bit of upfront cost, but I already had those canisters around, using them as reactors for other things. Maybe you'll have to make that initial investment, but again, you know, it's all that cost-benefit analysis that you have to do to see if it's worth it for you in the long run. I anticipate getting some good payback on this based off of the amount of anion I was chewing through over the time. So we've got a pump, pressure pump, and then two 100-gallon per day RO membranes. I've got a standard sediment filter here. This system happens to be hooked up before my water softener, so you'll notice it's a bit red there from things that it's been catching, but it's been like that for, you know, the last 12 months, and I haven't seen anything detrimental, especially considering my last ICP test hasn't shown me that that's a problem. I keep an eye on my pressure gauge to make sure that it's not getting clogged up to the point if I see it drop 5 pounds or more, you know, I might consider changing it, but for the most part, I'm not worried about that. And then, of course, we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 carbon blocks here that I've put in. I believe these are 5 and then 1s or whatnot. I can't remember. But you can see the dates here. Potentially 4/22 is when I put all of these in place here. And then, of course, I've got a cation bed here, and it's maybe, you know, that used up in the last 12 months. My second to last ATI ICP analysis test showed that I was getting a little bit of phosphates coming through, not a ton, but I didn't want to be putting any of that in initially. You know, my phosphates in my tank run 0.05 to 0.1 typically, which I'm okay with and everything's happy with, but I just didn't want that additional stuff in there. So I took a bag of ChemiPure and just threw the whole bag in there. And then my final ICP analysis test before I kind of launched full on with this system came back with 0 phosphate additives. And this last test on April 25th came back as a negative on the phosphates. So it seems to be continuing to work. You know, we're talking about, you know, parts per billion here, so we're not stripping out a lot. Your water's analysis may vary, so like I said, you got to step through this and work your way through the problem to see, you know, where you're standing and what you're fighting. You know, you can look up, there's a lot of charts online, you can see what types of elements are removed from by anion or cation. I believe BRS even has that reference as far as what attacks what. So when you're looking at those results and figuring out what you're trying to remove, you'll want to target that appropriately. But this system as stands, you know, has cost me $0 over the last 12 months, and by the recent test results, looks like a long ways away from depleting any of this. So then my current water mixing station, which is a 65-gallon barrel for the RODI fresh water, that's plumbed straight into my RODI filtration system, and it goes into a 65-gallon mixing bin, common pump, and 2 valves that I can use for cycling in between, and then I can gravity draw out of either system. And again, I change about 2 gallons to 3 gallons a day, depending on my mood with the AWC system. Sometimes I'll do more or less, depending on how things are going in the tank. But for the most part, just about 2 gallons a day on a 200-gallon system. So that equates to about 60 gallons a day in salt water, you know, a gallon plus a day in evaporation. Since I do slurry, I don't replace much water via my alkalinity replacement method from Kalkwasser. And then, of course, you know, anything else I'll use RODI water for throughout the course of the month. So in summation, if you're looking to reduce your ongoing reef costs, and one of the things that you're paying a high monthly cost for, which is consumables in your RODI making process, do some testing and check and see, you know, is there room? Everybody's water is different, I understand, you know, whether you may be on city water, you're worried about chlorine, or if you're on well water and you've got whatever you have going on. I don't know if 250 to 275 TDS out of tap water is super high, but it ain't small. And right now, I've reduced that to about 14, 15 TDS plus or minus out the end. And I don't miss any sleep at night putting that into my tank because I know what's in it. And I can watch that TDS meter out the end, so if it drifts, I'll be aware that something's changed and then I'll have to test it again. But over the last 12 months, it's been consistent and reliable, and I've seen nothing but positive results with regards to everything else that I'm doing, so I know it's not something that's taking away from my success factors. Still got a long ways to go, but if you're interested, I'll put some links, if appropriate, in the description. Please like and subscribe to my channel if this is interesting to you. I'm usually looking to share some of the things in my learning journey that I've figured out along the way. I'm certainly happy to share my mistakes as well. And if you've got any questions about anything or want a video about anything I've been going through, whether it's my slurry journey over the last year and a half almost. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.